All right, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for coming out. I'm Vic Reynolds. I'm the director of the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, and wanted to take a moment this morning to make an announcement. I'm very proud to stand up here and tell you that today marks the culmination of an 11-month joint investigation between the Georgia Bureau of Investigation's Appalachian Regional Drug Enforcement Office and the FBI's Major Offenders Task Force. This investigation has centered around a major methamphetamine and heroin trafficking distribution ring operating here in the Northeast Georgia area and reaching down, in fact, to the metropolitan Atlanta area as well. This investigation, as of this morning, has resulted in the arrest of 48 individuals. It's also resulted in the execution of 12 search warrants for various locations, both up in the Northeast Georgia and the metropolitan Atlanta area. As of this morning, although we're still out on the street and conducting parts of the investigation, as of this morning we have seized 50 kilos of methamphetamine, a half a kilo of heroin, 20 weapons, cash, and vehicles. Just want to take a moment before I call the FBI representative up, ASEC Santiago, to speak, to thank our partners in this endeavor. I particularly want to thank our federal partners at the FBI, Hall County Sheriff Gerald Couch, for all the work he and his folks have done here. The District Attorney of this circuit, Lee Dara, who is an old friend, I appreciate his support throughout this. And our control board members, which make up the Appalachian Regional Drug Enforcement Office of the GBI. And those partners include the White County Sheriff's Office, the Lumpkin County SO, Towns County SO, Banks County SO, Habersham County SO, Stevens County SO, Rabun County SO, Jackson County SO, and Franklin County SO, along with municipality police departments in Cleveland, Livonia, and Toccoa. The Department of Public Safety, our partners at the State Patrol, who are up here representing with us as well, our partners at the National Guard Counter Drug Task Force, and of course the GBI. And before I turn it over to ASEC Santiago from the FBI, I just want to make a brief statement and tell you that as you look up here this morning, this is a great example of how this is supposed to work. When you have this type of interagency cooperation at a federal level, at a state level, and a local level, and you work in conjunction with your prosecution partners, that's the way law enforcement is supposed to work. And and I think you can see as a result of that what happens when we're able to seize 50 kilos of methamphetamine, a half a kilo of heroin, weapons, cash, vehicles, and put an end to a major methamphetamine heroin trafficking distribution ring in this area. So I just want to take a moment to thank all of my partners behind me. ASEC Santiago from the FBI will be stepping up now. He'll also be introducing his partners in the FBI's Major Offender Task Force, and we also thank them as well. So again, thank you for your time. I'll certainly step back in a moment if you have any questions, but at this point I'll call on FBI ASEC Alex Santiago to address you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. So on behalf of Special Agent in Charge Chris Hacker from the Atlanta Division, I'd like to thank Director Reynolds for your friendship, your partnership. And again, like Director Reynolds highlighted, we do all this together. We're proud to partner with this operation with Forsyth County Sheriff's Office, Georgia State Police, Lumpkin County Sheriff's Office, Georgia Department of Corrections, Department of Community Supervision, Winder PD, Stevens County Sheriff's Office, Gainesville Police Department, and Alto Police Department. I'm very proud to be here today. And again, I want to thank all these partners for their partnership and their friendship. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. As you certainly can tell, and most of you know, criminal endeavors, particularly in this day and time, do not stop at a county line. There's no boundaries for them. They work throughout counties, throughout states on occasion. So the partnership that you see behind me today has to be in existence in today's law enforcement for it to work the appropriate way. We also have to have close partnerships with our prosecution friends as well, and I'm very honored that Lee Dara is standing up here with us. Lee, I'll ask you, I know I put you on the spot a little bit. Anything you care to say this morning, you're welcome to address. Please.
Thank you.
A successful prosecution of any case involves cooperation and coordination with many agencies. I've been a prosecutor for a long time. I have not seen in my career the number of agencies involved and the great work that has been done by all of those who are being supervised by all of these who are up here. Many of us are executives in our various offices, and we know where the grunt work is done, and it's all those people that are working underneath. And we appreciate everything that they have done in this successful operation. Of course, this is the beginning because it has resulted in the arrest of many people, all of whom have to be prosecuted. I have been privileged to appoint as special assistant district attorneys for my office in this operation 2 attorneys from the GBI who assist us through the prosecution of these cases in a RICO action, and we look forward to that as we go forward. But I appreciate all of the people who have been involved, particularly ones that I have been directly involved with myself on many occasions. And I just thank everybody that's been involved for this very successful operation, and we look forward to the successful prosecution that I know will be going forward from these cases. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee. It's an honor now for me to call on a partner, someone that I've known from the Board of Public Safety and someone that does a tremendous job up in this area, particularly in his county of Habersham. I'd like to call on Sheriff Joey Terrell to address you. Thank you. Sheriff?
Thank you, sir. You know, it's an honor and privilege to stand here with these men that's up here on this stage and the organizations they represent. And for us to be a part of it is just tremendous. You know, there's a partnership. We talked about a partnership. More than just a partnership, there's friendship in all this. You pick up the phone, and I pick up the phone to the FBI, and I can call the contact, and we can talk about what's going on. And our partners with the GBI, Director Reynolds, I can't say enough about, you know, our folks at Appalachian and the partnership we have with them. It's just tremendous. And then you think about our sheriffs. Sheriff Couch, thank you for allowing us to, you know, barge in and take over your department for the last few days. And, you know, I can't leave out Sheriff Freeman and Sheriff Shirley and our retiring buddy right here, Neil Walden from White County. And, you know, just the camaraderie we have in all this, but the hard work that's been put in, and just to send a message that we're not going to tolerate what's been going on in our communities. And we couldn't do it without our state patrol. We couldn't do it without, you know, the counter drug and all the other folks that's involved, even down to our PDs and our folks that work the street, the guys that just get down there in the trenches and do the work. Thank you for everything you do. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Sheriff. Let me echo Sheriff's comments too, and just thank Sheriff Couch for his graciousness and willingness to open his doors for us today and allow us to work with him. We appreciate that so much. I'd like to just very briefly call on another good friend, someone that we've worked closely with over the years, Sheriff Freeman for Forsyth, and just ask him to say a few words, and then we'll take some questions in a moment. Sheriff, thank you.
Thank you, Director. Morning, everybody. I think it's important just for us to recognize, I know I speak for the sheriffs and the other law enforcement executives behind me. This is not just a drug bust, and this is a disruption of a criminal element. These things trickle down. They create violent crime, they create property crime, they create the things that disrupt our communities. And so when you see a major undertaking, an 11-month investigation, and you see the cooperation between federal, state, and local authorities, what in fact you're seeing is keeping our communities safe. We didn't just take drugs off the street. What we did is we saved lives. The work by the men and women who did this, not only did we take heroin off the street, did they take methamphetamine off the street, they kept violent crimes from happening, and the successful prosecutions will keep future violent crimes from happening, and will also keep property crimes from happening. So I think we need to make sure that we look at the big picture of how this is keeping our communities safe and how this is disrupting criminal activity in our communities. That's why it's so important that we keep doing this. So Director, to our friends at the FBI and to the rest of the law enforcement executives, thank you for letting your people do what they do so well.
Great. Thank you, Sheriff. Yeah, I want you to remember too, if you would, you know, in these task forces, these local departments, and some of them they're not huge departments, but they're willing to share the men and women assigned to those departments to these task forces to allow them to work together with other agencies. And again, I don't mean to be redundant, but I can't emphasize the importance of interagency cooperation. I think this is a great example of that and what results in it. Before we open for any questions, if there are any, let me go around. Gentlemen, anyone else care to speak, you're certainly welcome to. If Sheriff Couch, you sure you don't want to say a few words? Okay, thank you. All right, anything you guys may want to ask us? Any questions?
If you could just walk us through what happened.
Basically, there was some information that became aware to the local law enforcement officers for a lengthy period of time, primarily beginning around August or so of 2019. That information, without releasing too much before any court appearances, indicated a major methamphetamine being brought into this area and being distributed by several individuals. The GBI task force then began partnership with the FBI Major Offenders Task Force. And the reason we partner with them is because each one of those task force brings together, as you can tell behind me, representatives from a number of departments. As those two task forces began working together, we began doing a number of things in the course of that investigation to determine the legitimacy, the validity, and the evidentiary standard of whether or not that was in fact occurring up here. It was. There was major methamphetamine being brought into this area along with heroin as well. As we began working those cases, gathering that information, the agents worked them. They worked leads, they did surveillance, they did various other law enforcement tactics in order to determine what was being done, where it was being done, and how it was being done. And that resulted in yesterday a sweep of 48 individuals who've been placed in custody. I will tell you that I don't think we're through. The agents are still working. They're still out on the street. And so it would not surprise me if we don't end up seeing more individuals arrested, but also the execution of 12 search warrants has discovered a number of weapons, also a half of a kilo of heroin. A number of vehicles were seized and some cash. We also were very fortunate enough to find and discover a conversion lab as well, where their individuals were converting liquid methamphetamine into methamphetamine distributed on the street. So we're very proud of that work as well. And that's basically where we got to today without sharing too much information before we get in a court of law. We feel very good about the cases, where they're at, where they're headed, and we expect the prosecution to be very aggressive and assertive in this case.
Is there an estimate on how much these suspects may have trafficked in their time here?
You know, I don't know total. I think by the time we get into court, we may have a little bit better idea of what it is. But I think if you just take, for example, what we seized in the course of yesterday and a little bit before, some 50 kilos of methamphetamine, half a kilo of heroin, I think that would be indicative of the type of drugs that were being brought into this community.
And you mentioned the liquid that might have been converted. Is there any idea of how much that might have been converted into if it had been completed?
Do we have any gauge of how much we think may have been converted into that from that lab?
So the guess is probably around 10 kilos right now for what we got.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir.
Of the counties represented here this morning, was there any one particular county that had the predominant amount of this activity?
Any idea, Trent?
It's spread throughout all of northeast Georgia. Obviously, there was more arrestees in some counties, but it was throughout all of northeast Georgia. There's not a county in North Georgia probably was touched by this organization.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty strong statement, and that, you know, not only was it touching up here where it's centered in northeast Georgia, but again, we had occasion for the investigation to lead us down in the metropolitan Atlanta area as well. But again, the majority of it was here in this northeast Georgia area.
Of the 48 people arrested, did it rank from, in the way of how the scheme was set up, from guys at the top to all the guys all the way at the bottom selling? Was it a pretty wide range of?
Yeah, I'm comfortable without getting into too many details now that the arrest centered around virtually every level of the distribution ring. Yes, sir.
And is there a chain from here to another country?
I would presume it's going to be running down to Mexico. Yes, that's the evidence that's indicated. Now, we'll lay that out a little bit better and a little bit clearer in court, but yes, it's going to be a distribution ring that ran from Mexico up to here.
And do we know how it was distributed, how it's being ran from Mexico to here?
We have a strong idea. I'm not going to indicate that now. It's something that we're still looking at, but we do have an idea of how it was run. Yes, sir.
Any peripheral incidents connected with the 48 arrests? Any problems?
No, thankfully, all the agents involved were safe and got back safely, and no one was hurt or injured on either end. So we were very, very thankful for that.
Could you walk us through the crackdown, how the day the seizing happened and all the day it happened? Like
Basically, it's my understanding, and Trent, you help me if I speak, I'm referring to the GBI Special Agent in Charge, Trent Hillsman, who's with us today. The agents hit the ground running yesterday about 7:15 a.m. And they had in their possession arrest warrants and search warrants. They divided up into teams throughout the Northeast Georgia area and also down in a little bit in the metropolitan Atlanta area. Those teams hit the road yesterday morning, began executing the arrest warrants, began executing the search warrants. And as I said a moment ago, their actions yesterday has led to 48 individuals who are have been seized and are in custody. They led to the seizure of the drugs, some of the weapons, and some of the cars as well, along with some cash. Again, the most important thing, as I emphasized a moment ago, was that we were able to execute this without any injuries on either end. Importantly, primarily to our law enforcement partners and, of course, to the individuals being arrested as well. And so we were very pleased with that. A deeper understanding and a deeper laying out of the facts will occur once we step into a court of law.
Is there any suspected gang affiliation?
My understanding is this is primarily a drug investigation, not a gang investigation, but I think as we get through it, our evidence will indicate that there's probably some distribution to at least a couple of gangs up in this area.
Is there any cop cam video, and is it available?
I don't think we have any video available today to release. We'll see that in the future, but at this point we don't have any video to release. I think we have some information though as far as individuals' names, jail booking photos and things of that nature. You're welcome to get a list. I know Hall County SOPIO is here and he's done a good job of putting that together for us, so that's available if you need to pick that up this morning. Nellie, anything else you can think of we need to touch on this morning? Thank y'all so much. Appreciate your time and effort. Thank you for coming out today. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate your help too. Thank y'all.